Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Football Guys Best Ball Show. James, it is hard to believe that we are already heading into week 7. I mean, this season is going by us before we even know it. I feel like we were just getting ready for week 1, gearing up for it. Now, here we are, heading into the second week of bye weeks, and we have some huge teams that are on buys this week. I was just going through my week 7 wide receiver rankings, and no Cooper Kupp, no Justin Jefferson, no AJ Brown, no Stephon Diggs. It's looking pretty thin atop the list of wide receiver rankings this week.
Oh yeah, dang. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting week too for all those best ball teams out there. Week 7, a lot of star players out and a lot of good teams. So yeah, that's the way it goes. You're gonna have to grind it out this week and kind of find those under the radar kind of plays, I think.
And then looking at the primetime games, no Arizona Cardinals. They're playing on Thursday night, so they aren't going to be in this main slate of games that we're playing. That's really the only big one. The Patriots and Bears. I don't think those are two teams that you'd really be actively going out and trying to target players for. But we're going to be looking at another battle royale now heading into week 7. So just taking a look at the teams that are available on this slate, the Sunday afternoon and then late afternoon games. We got Cleveland at Baltimore, Atlanta at Cincinnati, Detroit at Dallas, Green Bay at Washington, Tampa Bay at Carolina, New York Giants at Jacksonville, Indianapolis at Tennessee, Houston at Las Vegas, New York Jets at Denver, Kansas City at San Francisco, and Seattle at Los Angeles Chargers. Do any of those games jump out to you specifically as games that you would be looking to target in these tournaments this week?
Yeah, I don't know that anything really sticks out too much. Maybe the Chargers is fun. I mean, they didn't do much last night, but I think you could be in against the Seahawks defense. That could be high scoring. Chiefs is always interesting. I would probably say Kelsey. I haven't even looked at rankings yet, but he's probably the 101 in these, I would imagine.
My
But
guess is Kelsey and Lamar Jackson are probably sitting up there with no
yeah,
Josh Allen in this slate, no Jalen Hurts in this slate. I think if you can lock in Lamar Jackson, you're giving yourself a huge, huge advantage above the field.
yeah. And I actually like the Falcons Bengals too. I think Burrow is a nice play. So
Yeah.
I think he's a good one to try to stack as well.
And then we've also got a bunch of weird injuries that we don't have any clarity on right now.
Right.
Keenan Allen should be back at practice, but who knows whether he's going to play. DeAndre Swift, we were hoping that he'd come back after the bye, but we don't have any word on that yet. So the nice thing is we do have these swaps in Underdog. So if you draft a player that is inactive, they'll swap out with the next closest. So you can't really hurt yourself. But if you're reaching for a guy like DeAndre Swift or Keenan Allen, or maybe even Chris Olave, who we thought might be back next week and was unable to play, there are still a lot of question marks. But let's go ahead and dive right in, James. I am excited. We've talked about this enough. Let's go ahead and dive right in. These are just $5, 3,600 entrants, $50,000 to first place. So for just $5, you can end up winning yourself a pretty penny here. We're gonna get 4-6 slots, so we're just gonna have 2 more pop in. And Lamar Jackson is going at 4, so a little bit lower than I'd anticipated. But
Mm,
Travis Kelsey and Mark Andrews, atop. Is there any surprise there? I mean, we've
yeah,
seen now that those are the only guys.
I didn't even look at the rankings, but this is how I did it last week too. So last week I actually maxed out this tournament, but I had Kelsey and Andrews 1-2, and now it's 1-2 here. So finally, after 7 weeks, we're finally there where, hey, these are the top 2 tight ends, and they've been in winning lineups probably like 4 or 5 of the times, winning
Yep.
people 50 grand. So it makes sense that both of those guys are the top 2 in my opinion.
Now we've got 6 teams. You got to draft, 6 quarterbacks total in these tournaments, and a lot of times we've seen that big 6 all playing in the main slate. So you can wait. You could be the last guy to
Mhm.
draft a quarterback and still end up with Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray or something like that. This week is a little bit different. You got Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes standing out above the bunch. Joe Burrow coming off a great week where he was the QB1 in week 6. After that, though, Justin Herbert, he's been looking a little bit shaky ever since that rib injury. Tom Brady, not his old self. Dak Prescott hasn't played since week 1, and his availability isn't even 100% certain. And then Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith. So this also seems like a slate, given the bye weeks and the games that aren't in the main slate with Kyler not being there. This seems like a week you might want to pay up for Lamar or Mahomes to give yourself an advantage.
Yeah, I would push back a little on that. I think Burrow and I think he's right in play there too, and Herbert. And then even on the lower end, I don't mind Carr and a big bounce back. I could see the Raiders kind of coming up, and I think Lawrence is another nice play too.
Yeah.
He
And
finally
Lawrence,
had
I
his
mean, he has
breakout.
been as boomer bust as they come. Let's go ahead and take a look. We can't do the game logs here, but it seems like
No,
Trevor
it
Lawrence
has the
is
game
either
log
put.
there.
Did I miss that?
Yeah, he had 2 rushing
Oh, yeah.
touchdowns last
Here it is.
week, so
So we can see
that's
the
kinda
logs
what I
here.
like there, so
Mhm. And we knew that he had that rushing upside, and didn't see a ton of it last year, but it's good to see him running a little bit more this year. But man, 6 points a couple weeks ago against Philly, 12 points the week before, and then 34 the week after. And if this
mhm.
went back one more week, I know that in week 3 he had close to 30 points as well. So he's been pretty boomer bust, but when he booms, he hits big. So do not have any problems with that. So we already got Mark Andrews. Was really hoping that Lamar Jackson might slide here to us, but Lamar Jackson goes off the board at 8. So already got Mark Andrews as the tight end. Took him as the second off the board. Looking at some of these other guys that are available, would love Nick Chubb with that little run back there. I'm sure that's who you'd like taking here, but anybody else jumping out to you? We got Patrick Mahomes still on the board, Debo Samuel, Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey. Once we get into the receivers, we're looking at CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, T. Higgins. Who would your choice be here?
Yeah, I'd go Chubb, and then I think Debo's a nice spot, with, Brandon Ayuk kinda having that breakout game. Maybe Debo will slide down in the ranks a little bit, so I don't mind him.
Hey, take a look
Uh,
at this. We got Joe Bryan in the chat saying, let's go.
oh,
Nice to
what's up,
see you,
Joe?
Joe. All right, so there we go with Nick Chubb. Pretty happy about that. I do like Mark Andrews and Nick Chubb. That's fun. We're putting a lot into that game. Who else would you be targeting in this matchup, if anyone at all? Do we maybe go for Amari Cooper, or is that just going a little bit too heavy at this game? Or are we kind of looking at BPA? I mean,
Yeah,
Christian McCaffrey's still on the board if we want to go with a 2 running back build. He has looked like his old self. Mike Evans is here, but we're looking at Chris Godwin as well. T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Michael Pittman, Amon-Ra St. Brown could be a sneaky pickup after a couple of weeks off. Who do you have in mind here?
I'd probably go receiver. I like
Evans?
kinda Higgins Burrow if you wanna try for that, but Evans is fine too.
I went with Higgins. And there goes Burrow off the board, so we're not going to be
Yeah.
able to get that stack.
So it might be better to go Burrow there first and then try to get Higgins. People might kinda linger on him, but the reason
Like
I
we said,
like
I think that's
Higgins.
kind of where the fall off is. Justin Herbert. I mean, we would have had Justin Herbert in this tier had he been healthy this season, but he just has not looked like himself since that rib injury. So he might be somebody that you can get a little bit later as a nice steal.
um, is Adams out this week? Did he get suspended? I didn't even.
No,
Yep.
he was
Okay.
drafted already.
Okay,
Assumed that
yeah.
he would have gone off the
Well, I
board
was
a
just
little
thinking
early.
about Carr, yeah. And I don't mind the Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence back end here too. I don't mind Drake London to kind of pair with Higgins, hoping for kind of a shootout there.
Yeah, we got 3 picks left here, so I do like the Kirk Lawrence stack. I think what we do is probably go BPA with this next pick.
Mhm.
Any of these wide receivers available: Amon St. Brown, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf. If we get DK though, we could always pair that up with a Geno Smith who's been looking pretty hot in a nice matchup against the Chargers. We can go Chris Godwin and Tom Brady here as well, with Brady still being on the board. What do you think the move is here, James?
I think both of those are similar. So I don't mind. I mean, it seems like Tampa just has to have one of those games where they put up 30, 40 points soon, but it's just like making an assumption there.
I like where your head's at. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take Tom Brady if he makes it to us with the next pick. If not, we should still be able to get DK Metcalf, and then we can wait until the very final round and get Geno Smith to stack up there. So I think this worked out pretty well. I like the way that these players kind of fell. We got multiple options here depending on what draft chief does there. He goes Joe Mixon, still has a quarterback spot available, but is going to wait on that.
I think
So
yeah, he's the only one that needs a quarterback, maybe too. So
So what do you think? Do we go DK Metcalf here, or do we get Tom Brady and lock in that stack? Because we can take DK Metcalf and then take best available between Brady and Geno with the next pick.
yeah, probably the receiver.
I
I
like
don't
it.
know what's on the receiver board, but
Yeah. Other
Metcalf's
receivers
due for a
available:
bounce back too, I
Amari
think.
Cooper, Alan Lazard, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton. So I feel like getting DK Metcalf is pretty solid tier there. I feel like that would have fallen off. I've got DK Metcalf significantly higher than Cooper, Lazard, Kirk, and the other guys that are still on the board. And then yeah, I like the way this one worked out quite a bit. We got Mark Andrews and Nick Chubb correlated there. Cincinnati and Atlanta didn't do anything else in that game, but we do have T. Higgins there. And then Chris Godwin and DK Metcalf will end up with either Tom Brady or Geno Smith to correlate and stack one of those picks. this is how you do it. I mean, I think this is a textbook example of how to build a battle royale team right here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the receivers left there too. You could go Juju and Ayuk there too for a game stack. Looks like no one's drafting them. They're going
Yeah,
super late, so that's kind of a fun one. Yeah,
Juju, Ayuk. I mean, shoot, even Drake London, who, the volume hasn't been there, but the efficiency certainly has been. You can even go a little bit further down the list, and Tyler Lockett, who's been putting up wide receiver one numbers. Michael Gallup, we don't know what he's going to be exactly. And I'm interested to see if Dak was drafted or not. Yeah, Dak Prescott's still on the board. I mean, that's a stack where you can get. I'm not sure where CD Lamb went. CeeDee Lamb with an ADP of 15. But I mean, in the offseason prior to the injury, we were looking at that as one of the most dominant stacks that you can get is Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And here you can get CeeDee Lamb in the second or third round and then get Dak in the very final round. So there are a lot of interesting builds that you can go with here. We're going to take Tom Brady over Geno Smith. That's how I have him ranked. I have Brady a little bit ahead of Geno,
yeah. I feel like Brady has to have like that 3 touchdown game again here soon because he's just
especially up
kind of
against
looked bad.
Carolina.
Yeah,
All the criticism he's been getting for going to Robert Kraft's wedding last week. Yeah, I'm expecting a bounce back for him. Now let's go ahead and jump in another one because that's what we do on this show. We just keep pumping out battle royales, and I think that's also the trick as well. If you've got a good process for how you're drafting these teams, there's no reason to just do one because there is a lot of fate and luck that kind of comes into play here. So if you got a good process, you know how to build teams, just throw in 5, 10, whatever you can afford. Throw some entries in there and hope that one hits big.
yeah, and I think also you learn from each one too. So maybe that first one, we probably didn't need to reach on Higgins there, things like that. So you can kind of go into the next one with kind of the same train of thought and kind of learn from that.
We were just waiting on this one to fill. So let's throw some players in a queue here, kind of walking through how we would draft these guys. Because for me personally, I think that we have the right mindset, and ADP reflects that with Travis Kelsey and Mark Andrews. But I think I'd be going for Lamar Jackson ahead of Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley. How about you?
I might go Barkley, because that sets up a fun Jacksonville run back too with Lawrence and Kirk. So I kind of like that.
All right.
I like Adams a lot, but I'm not really buying in on the QBs as much. I think they're a little bit like I don't mind them. Like you should keep them there, but I just feel like they're overvalued. Tight end, I don't feel is overvalued because it's just those two top guys, and the drop off's huge. QB, just last week, like Joe Burrow was the guy you needed, like, and he was getting drafted down the board.
Yep.
So, um, you see Lamar, like that game could be
You don't
more of
want
a
to read
running
too much
game,
into a single week, though, because we had multiple
right?
weeks where Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews were the tight end one and QB one off the board, and they paid dividends for people that were willing to pay up for it. So I think here, I mean, the primary target, obviously, we're going to go with Travis Kelsey at 101. This is the only spot that you can get him. So now we got a
Mhm.
long wait. We're picking all the way at 12.
So
Um,
Mahomes could fall to you though.
and
So
that's what I'm thinking is you got to hope Mahomes is going to fall because nobody's taking Juju this early, so nobody's trying to stack. And Mahomes isn't, the gaudiest player that you want to just draft to have as a naked quarterback. You're okay doing that with a guy like Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen who could pick up so many points on the ground. But with Mahomes, the big allure there is stacking him with Kelsey. The only problem is I feel like you're not really differentiating yourself from the field because looking at how ADPs are, I'm sure there are going to be a ton of Travis Kelsey Mahomes stacks this week.
yeah, I think that you could get a few of those, but I think it's the right play though. It's like I don't think you avoid it if it falls to you. Like I think you just scoop it as many times as you can and then try to make the rest of your roster look a little different. So that's how
Agree.
I'd play that. Anytime you get the Kelsey Mahomes, you have to take that one.
Yeah. And the best week that I've had so far in all these battle royale drafts where I won a few $100 on 10 entries. I had 10 entries in and 5 of them just happened to be Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, and they finished as a QB1 tight end one. Almost didn't matter who else was on my team after that point, just having that alone, and I ended up cashing on all 5 of those. So I agree, you can't really pass on either of those stacks. If you're able to get Mahomes or Kelsey or Andrews or Lamar, you take it this week.
Yeah, agreed.
So still got a few other picks up. I'm shocked to see Saquon Barkley, who is pretty much the unanimous RB1 right now. Austin Eckler off the board, Derrick Henry off the board. Saquon Barkley's still sitting there. He finally goes off the board at 9, but that was a good pick.
Mhm.
So let's just go ahead in case we get sniped on Mahomes, but we also have 2 picks. I think this is probably the ideal start, but I'm sure a lot of people have it because you're getting the run back with Debo Samuel. So if I feel like this is probably the best 1, 2, 3 start that you can have this week is Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and Debo Samuel, and we're one pick away from locking that in.
Yeah, so this guy took Andrews already, so I wouldn't assume he would take Mahomes. That kind of would defeat the purpose out of. But
Might take Debo, and if he does take Debo, then we'll just go ahead and there,
yeah,
Mike Evans. I mean, does it get better than this for this start right here? You got the Mahomes
no,
and Kelce stack, and you got San Francisco. So if that game ends up beating a shootout, you got Debo locked up in there as well. I really like the way that one worked.
yeah, no, that's super nice. I like that a lot, especially when you got the onesie positions locked up, so you don't even have to worry about that.
Yeah. So from here on out, we're gonna go one more running back, two more wide receivers. And I mean, just being honest, I'm not even too concerned about correlating or anything like that. I feel like we've already done a good enough job with these first three picks. I'm probably just going BPA on these next three. What did you say?
I think you could. I would probably prioritize running back maybe a little bit, like because it's kind of a bigger drop off. But I think they all kind of look the same to me right now. Maybe Joe Mixon's a nice pick. Um,
How crazy is this? Seeing Jonathan Taylor all the way down here. He was obviously ruled out last week. We don't know what
mhm.
his situation is going to look like for week 7, but if he ends up playing and you're able to get him with an ADP of 32, that feels like a game breaker right there.
Yeah, I think actually Jonathan Taylor is a nice pick, 6th round. You don't take any running backs, and he's your last pick. And if he doesn't play,
Swaps out.
yeah, he gets swapped out. So that's how I'd play Jonathan Taylor. Don't draft him above the 6th round. Really, I don't think. Same with Swift if you
Yeah.
want to do that. But
That's what I'm looking at, these 2 right here. I mean, they're both just buried in ADP, so I'm gonna throw both of these in the queue for our final pick. Is I mean, again, they're both questionable. We don't know who's gonna be playing there, but if either of those guys are healthy and active and you're able to get DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor in the 6th round, that's just, that's almost a cheat code right there. Um,
yeah,
like the
uh,
Amon St. Brown here, like Chris Godwin, like DK Metcalf. I like a lot of these receivers. Who would you be leaning towards? We got 2 picks here, and I think we're gonna probably double
ooh,
tap receiver.
yeah, I would go Amon Ross, probably
Yep,
number one. He's gone.
he's
I
gone.
really do like Mixon a lot, though. I think that is a good spot for him. Um,
Now, let me just ask you, do you think that there is a huge gap between Mixon, Swift, and Taylor? Do you think it's worth paying up for Mixon knowing that you can get Swift or Taylor probably with the next picks?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I actually like Cortland Sutton a lot for rebound game. Uh, yeah, I don't know what to tell you here.
I think we go DK and Sutton. Go for 2 guys with huge upside. Um, you know what? Let's go with Mixon. I don't know. I'm tilting. Let's go DK again, just because he's one of my favorite plays this week. Really love him going up in a division game. What do you want to do with this next one? We can go Mixon or Sutton. Your
Or
call, James.
you could also go Brandon Ayuk and just like totally hope for that crazy blowout game. You're going for like a 42-39 kind of game.
I like it. All right, there we are. So let's go ahead and queue up some running backs. Joe Mixon, Brees Hall, happy with just about any of these guys. Eckler's already off the board, so we can't do any sort of run back with DK Metcalf. I mean, I doubt we want to go with Edwards Hilaire or Jeff Wilson Jr., right? Especially with these
Uh,
running backs available.
I would say also, I think the Dallas running backs are interesting to me this week. If Dak does come back, I just don't think that he's gonna put up like 250 plus yards. I just think that they're gonna kind of limit what he does, and I think it's Detroit, it's at home, so I kind of like Dallas running back too.
And I
But
mean, Ezekiel Elliott, he's been disappointing to say the least. I mean, not putting
mhm.
up great numbers so far, but he's still been more than serviceable. And looking at that volume, 13 carries last week, 22 the week before, 19, 15, 15. I mean, he's still seeing a very nice workload. And if Dak Prescott can take that offense and kick it into second gear, all of a sudden we're cooking with gas in Dallas.
Yeah, and they're gonna give him run, and if they're the favorite at home, it just makes sense to me. Like he could only get like 50, 60 yards, but he could also have 2 1-yard touchdowns. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of how I see his week going.
And James,
So,
we might get Joe Mixon because the guy on the board right now already has 2 running backs. Everybody else has a running back. Box Bump has 2 running backs. Cade Campbell has 2 running backs.
mhm.
So, I mean, we're pretty much guaranteed either DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, or Joe Mixon with this next pick.
No, that's nice. I think Brees Hall's a nice pick too, right? If already have Sutton. Oh, we were gonna take Sutton. If we would have went Sutton, then you go Brees Hall on the other side. So that would have been nice as well.
And
Mm.
here we are, seeing everyone pick up their tight end positions. Njoku, Tunyon. Looks like Box Bump here is going to get a tight end. We already got that locked up. So Yeah, I mean, who would you prefer here with this pick? I don't think we're going to be able to really correlate anything too well because I don't want to reach for Kansas City or San Francisco running backs. So we just going the best player available here, which is probably going to be Jonathan Taylor. And then if Jonathan Taylor doesn't work out, if he's inactive, he gets swapped out for Joe Mixon
I would honestly do Joe Mixon like over them, but
over JT straight up.
yes, because he gets so much volume.
I mean, so does Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, go with Taylor. That's
I'm making an executive decision here. If we're gonna go
no.
Jonathan Taylor, and if he's inactive, then we still get our Joe Mixon. And maybe this is just wishful thinking here, but we saw what Deion Jackson just did this week, and we've never seen Jonathan Taylor utilized as a running back like that. And then Deion Jackson comes out and looks amazing. So you got to hope that maybe, just maybe, like if you're watching the show, Frank Reich, please utilize Jonathan Taylor like that. He can catch the ball too. He can be a 3-down back. Why aren't we force feeding him the ball like we were to Deion Jackson last week?
No, yeah, solid points. And after we're done all these too, you should update your own rankings too, right? So then when the swaps come in, you're going to be okay on that.
Yep, absolutely. Because it'll just swap based off of ADP at the time, I believe, right? So with Joe Mixon being the next best available, if Jonathan Taylor's inactive, I believe it'll automatically swap in Joe Mixon, correct? Is that
Yeah,
how that works?
that should be the way it goes. Then they also give you like a swap rankings too, so I think
Yep.
you can kind of update those for like later games if you want to update them.
Here we are, man. Third draft. We got 2 with the first one. We got 1 with the second, and now here we are with our third draft, and we are picking at 2. So, if Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews are the skeleton keys to this week's slate, we're 3 for 3 so far.
Yeah, and I think I would go Kelsey Andrews, and then I would go Chase and Devontae Adams. Like that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then probably Lamar and yeah, maybe Eckler. So Barkley.
All right. Well, there goes Lamar Jackson 101. So we're going Kelsey again here. Might as well.
Yeah, like I said last week, I maxed out this contest, and I think I was like 60% Kelsey. I took him. He was my 101, so I think his ADP might have been like 105 or something. So I just got him every time.
How did you do this week? Yeah, you ended up
I
finishing
needed
in
a
the green.
I needed a touchdown from him, but yeah,
Ah,
I was up a few hundred at the
there
end
you go.
of it all. But yeah, if he would have got like one more touchdown, I was 24th, I think, and I had a Kelsey team. So Kelsey team might have bumped me into the top 10. But
Ah,
a lot of people have Kelsey there.
Kelsey, just why can't you do 4 touchdowns every week? Yeah, I mean, I think the only shocking thing here so far has been Lamar Jackson. And how about Austin Eckler, man? 2, 3 weeks ago, people were freaking out about Austin Eckler, asking if it was the end of the road. Should they sell low in their dynasty leagues? Everyone in redraft freaking out. And then back-to-back weeks of him being an absolute workhorse. And we've seen this in a couple drafts now, him going as the RB1 off the board.
Yeah, no, he seems right up there. One with Barkley and Chubb, and then maybe Eckler. Like I don't know who else to put up there in the top. Henry, I guess, been pretty good too. Like Henry and Eckler have been quietly good the last few weeks.
With this next pick here, Mahomes already off the board at 106. That's kind of shocking. So we're not getting any sort of stack here with Kelsey, unfortunately. But I think that's probably a good thing because we don't want to just keep building the same teams over and over again. We got to do something
Yeah,
a little bit entertaining for the audience. So Saquon Barkley would be solid with the next pick, but I like CeeDee Lamb as well. Who jumps out to you here, James?
I'd go Barkley or Chubb,
Chubb.
and then
All right.
and then you're just done with running back.
Barkley off the board. So we will go ahead and take Nick Chubb here. I do want some CeeDee Lamb because I feel like he's got, an unrealized ceiling if Dak is able to come back. People have kind of soured on CeeDee Lamb a little bit. I don't think we've really seen his full potential playing with Cooper Rush. So, CeeDee Lamb, we were touting him as a top 5 guy in the offseason. Gotta hope that he can finally live up to that bill on a week in and week out basis now. So, I'd like to see some CeeDee Lamb here, but I think the one guy that I struggle to pay up for is Mike Evans in my rankings this week. I've got Chris Godwin flat out ahead of Mike Evans. So it's really hard for me to think about taking him as early as 14th overall when I know that I can get Chris Godwin a couple rounds later.
Well, it feels like Fournette's stealing a lot of targets as well. So yeah, there you
Mhm.
go. You got Lamb anyway. So
Yeah. So that's a fun start. No sorts of correlation here whatsoever, but Travis Kelsey, Nick Chubb, CeeDee Lamb. And then that opens us up, I think, in the final round. We've been seeing Dak slide quite a bit here. So far, the quarterbacks off the board are only Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. So we got 4 quarterbacks left: Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott. We can probably get him in the very final round and
Mhm.
lock up that stack. I think another play that would jump out to me, the next target that I'd like to have, for already going with CeeDee Lamb, project some sort of shootout here, possibly with Detroit. So would like to see Amon-Ra St. Brown. All systems seem to be a go for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Haven't gotten that Tuesday practice report yet, but from what I've been reading over the weekend after the bye, it sounds like Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift are both going to be returning to practice
Yeah,
this week.
it looks like Pittman should be a guy way higher than what he is right now. I feel like the amount of targets and work he got last week, and he kind of looked like that was the third round player people were drafting all off season. So I kind of like Pittman at his value in these right now as
And
well.
and we saw week 1 too. Week 1, Pittman went 13 targets, 121 yards and a touchdown and got all excited about it, and then the volume's been there for the last 3 weeks, but the production hasn't. But over the last 3
Mhm.
weeks, we on the clock right now? Oh, no. Sorry, I
Mhm.
zoned out for a second.
Well,
But,
Alec Pierce just went. That's crazy over
I
Pittman.
yeah, that's
That's
that's kinda wild to see him going ahead of Pittman.
so
Yeah,
I was
even
gonna
those 3
I was
weeks
gonna
where Pittman was putting up disappointing numbers, 9, 6, and 8 targets, he was still drawing the usage and just wasn't putting up numbers.
Yeah. It's interesting this draft room we're in because you're the only badge in here. And when you said, "Oh, Mahomes went in the top 6 or whatever," you can predict that a lot more. So when you don't see any badges, QBs are gonna like those big name QBs are always gonna go in the first round. So that's more predictable. You see more badges, they're gonna fall to you. So there you get St. Brown. That's nice.
Yeah, Pittman went off the board. I think that would have been the ideal double tap there, would have been Amon-Ra St. Brown and Pittman, but I'm happy to take Pittman. Higgins is a guy that we have yet to draft, which I wouldn't mind, but still got a quarterback position to fill. So do we reach for Dak Prescott or do we just hope that he makes it back to us with the second to last pick in at 605?
I'd probably go Ayuk to match with Kelsey for the game, and then I would go Prescott at the end.
I like
And if
it.
you don't get Prescott, I mean, you can fall back into Goff or, yeah, or even Garoppolo.
Talk about getting different. And we'll throw up Garoppolo in here as well.
Or you can just take Herbert and just hope that, like, some of these QBs could just run in a touchdown and you don't need a stack.
Herbert, man, like I said, he hasn't looked like himself, and injuries suck. Injuries happen to everybody. But ever since that, I mean, you saw yesterday. I don't know if you watched the entire game or not, but when he took that Hail Mary attempt, that's something where Justin Herbert could make that off his back foot, eyes closed, without a follow up or without any sort of crow hop or anything like that. Yesterday, he put everything he had into that Hail Mary and came up 15 yards short of the end zone. I mean, he's not himself right now. We didn't see any deep attempts. The one big deep attempt he had came up short on the Hail Mary. I mean, it's kind of sad, but really, I think they should just shut him down for a couple of weeks and let him heal because I don't think he's doing any sort of service to his own body going out there and just racking up more hits when he's clearly hurt.
Hey, they're 4-2. They got the win yesterday. So, whatever. I mean, that's a tough division. So, I think a division game, I think that's kind of their thinking. They just needed that win. And maybe they do rest them. I don't know. But
Let's take a look here. T. Jones, they need a quarterback. Hopefully they go with Tom Brady here, not Dak Prescott, but fingers crossed we'll see who we end up getting here. This team
are
would
we
look a
sure?
lot nicer with Dak Prescott.
Are we sure Prescott's going to play? Like, I know he says he's going to play, but is he really going to play?
Plans to play week 7.
I mean, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. He was practicing last week. Um, from my understanding, he was sort of a game time decision that they thought about even playing him this week. So I think that if he was that close to playing in week 6, I think he's all but a sure thing in week 7, especially, I think Cooper
After
Cup
a
getting
loss, they probably
spanked
want that
by the
win.
Eagles. Yeah, I think that makes it a lot easier to finally make that switch. I mean, had Cooper Rush won that game against Philadelphia last week, we'd be looking at a quarterback controversy, but losing a divisional game, I think that just sets the stage up for a sure thing for Dak to come back this week.
So,
Let's see. Hopefully, we get a later pick. We've been starting all of our drafts off so far with either Travis Kelsey or Mark Andrews. So, would like to pick a little bit later and maybe start off with Devontae Adams or Saquon Barkley or Austin Eckler and see what one of those teams can look like.
What do you think about a two running back build this week? 'Cause I feel like the last few weeks, like 3 out of the last 4 weeks, maybe it's been 2 running backs that have won and been in the winning lineup. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of highly touted and highly regarded running backs coming up a little bit flat, but
mhm.
you know, just
See,
just look
I,
at
I
how
kind of
deep
like
it is.
Josh Jacobs and Fournette, like that combo later in like third, fourth, fifth round. If you get both of them, that'd be kind of fun, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking. You keep scrolling, and you just keep seeing people who have top 5 finishes already this season. Kareem Hunt did it in week 1. Jeff Wilson's had a few boom weeks already. James Robinson's had some big weeks. J.K. Dobbins is just 2 weeks removed from a 2 touchdown game. So I
Mhm.
mean, you really can't go wrong with running backs. I feel like you can wait, take 2 running backs in the very final rounds and still end up having a good week. Running backs are obviously the toughest position to forecast. So much of it just comes down to whether they're going to score or not. But this, we talked about how thin quarterbacks were in this slate, or I guess I should say high end quarterbacks. But if there's one thing you want to say about running backs, it's that they are deep. I mean, looking here, Brees Hall, you can make a realistic argument for Brees Hall to be a top 3 running back this week. And you can get him as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, running back 10.
All right. Yeah, I just think that 2 running back builds is gonna let you be more unique in your roster, especially down the board with like you're saying, if you get Brees Hall paired with another running back, like nobody really is gonna have that combo. So a lot of people are gonna have the tight ends and the QBs, but then when you pair them with those, like maybe 2 of those kind of running backs, I think that's. I mean, I haven't drafted any of these myself, but I'm just
So you're
kind of
talking
think.
about drafting, like if you're drafting from the back of the first and starting off with Barkley Eckler or Henry Chubb, something like that. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm even thinking later. Like you could do that back of the first if you had the yeah, if you had the 106 or whatever, and both of them are there, just take 2. But even if you go quarterback, tight end, or quarterback receiver there to start, and then follow it up with your next 2 picks at running back.
Yeah.
Um, I just
I,
think
I
it's
like
good.
that because I mean, realistically, I mean, looking if you do that, if you wait until rounds 3 and 4, is there a huge difference between Saquon Barkley and Eckler and Christian McCaffrey and Mixon or Leonard Fournette and Mixon? I mean, I feel like those, there isn't much of a difference between those running back pairings.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up last week's winning roster real quick just to look at it,
Yeah.
see what they had.
So we're finally outside of the top 2. We're picking fourth here.
Okay, last week we had a tie for second, and then the first place team. Yeah, so it had this lineup's going to be crazy for you. It had the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack,
Of course.
had the Mark Andrews kind of solo in that game, and it had Tyreek Hill, and then the running backs Ramondre, and then it had Deion Jackson. So I had double
Oh,
running backs with Deion Jackson, which is incredible.
took both
So
spot starts and nailed them both.
Ramondre was and then the second place teams that tied a similar lineup: Burrow with Chase, Stephon Diggs, Mark Andrews, and then it had Ramondre, but Brees Hall. So you're seeing double running backs making push up the boards on these, but then
And all late running backs for the most part. Actually, I think Ramondre
yeah,
was going top 5, but Deion Jackson, that was somebody that you can get a little bit later. Um, Interesting to see that.
yeah. Mm,
Let's see. So Kelsey is the first one off the board. Andrews is second off the board. So what do we do here? It's the first time where we don't get one of those elite tight ends. Do we
I
go
I would
Saquon
go
Barkley? Do we go
receiver.
Devontae Adams?
I'm going
Devon-
Adams or Chase. I prefer maybe Jamar. So
oh, I already selected
no, that's
Adams. I'm
fine.
sorry about
I
that.
just I just like a little more upside, maybe. Maybe potential for some higher scoring game there. But
Certainly. I think the reason that I have Adams ahead of Chase in my rankings is just because of the matchup. AJ Terrell has been good this year. And I'm not saying that anybody can shut down Jamar Chase, but he's going to do a pretty good job. I don't think there's anybody in Houston that could stop Devontae Adams. So I think this is going to be a pretty big Devontae Adams week.
no, yeah, I haven't looked at the matchups that way. Yeah, I'm
But
just
man, if
thinking.
we can But if we can get both,
Go
2
ahead.
picks away and Jamar Chase is still on the board, let's hope both of these people already have running backs. So it'll they might be looking at receivers here, but I think an Adams Chase start would be a lot of fun. Kenneth Walker off the board. Wow. So now at 202, it's
So
probably going to be either Saquon Barkley or Jamar Chase here
yeah, he went double running back
to start.
with Walker over Barkley. That doesn't make sense to me.
That doesn't make sense to me either. But hey, people can draft their own teams however they'd like. So if Jamar Chase gets taken here, are we going Saquon or um I don't really want Mahomes without Kelsey. There goes Saquon. How about that? We were tilting
Yeah.
between Adams and Chase, and we got them both. That's my wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 for the week.
Yeah, so this is the kind of start that I would say do
Now you go 2 running backs.
two running backs could be really fun. But also, what stack can you get? If you can get a stack, like if you can get Burrow, or maybe you just go Derek Carr.
Carr in the final round.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
maybe
mean,
you
I
go with
would be okay paying up for Joe Burrow here if he's with our next pick. Might be this is at 304. I don't think that's too early for Burrow. I'd be okay taking him there.
and then you get Pitts as
I was gonna
well.
say Pitts. Yeah, finally found the end zone last week. How about it? But we still got Chubb available too. I just don't know how that really works with the build that we got going. I think we got to go Chase here, or I'm sorry, Burrow here. That we saw what the Burrow Chase stack is capable of last week, and even up against Atlanta, where they're probably going to
Well,
control the
look at
clock a little bit.
the next two drafters. The next two drafters both have two running backs, so they won't even be able to take Chubb anyway.
Yeah,
So, yep.
I like
So
that. So we'll
you
go
can
Burrow
get
here,
Burrow
and
and
then
Chubb.
I mean I'm happy with Chubb or Fournette, whichever one drops to us with the next pick. Um, And then for tight end, we'll, like you said, probably just wait off on Kyle Pitts. So we've already seen so far the only tight ends off the board are Andrews and Kelsey, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, David Njoku, Kyle Pitts. This is the first time we're kind of waiting on tight ends. So we're in uncharted waters here. But yeah, if we can get Kyle Pitts in the 6th round, I think that's a smash. The volume hasn't been there, but the efficiency and the usage rates have. So if Cincinnati ends up, doing well and forcing this game to be a shootout, Kyle Pitts would probably be the biggest benefactor in Atlanta.
Yeah, I actually really like this lineup. I mean, it feels like a gift to get Adams and Chase.
Yeah, and
There's
stack with Burrow. And
there's so
then
much you can do right now.
let me just ask, do you have Chubb ahead of Fournette in your rankings? Oh, there goes Kyle Pitts. We got screwed on that one. Kyle Pitts off the board. Are you
So
going Chubb ahead of Fournette?
you could follow back up with Drake London, so you're still fine
True.
on that if you wanted the
True.
run back.
Well, we need a tight end.
Tight end.
I think we could probably wait on tight end a little bit longer. Let's
I
go.
don't
Are we
care
going
if you
Chubb or
want
Fournette?
if you want Fournette, you already have a Chubb team. That's fine.
Yeah. I like Fournette. He's just getting all the usage that I wanted him to get this offseason. He's been a monster in the passing game. Still getting the goal line work. Can't really be too upset about what we've been seeing from Fournette so far. Yet to see a real boom game, but the usage is there and should come eventually.
So
I mean, 17 targets in the last 2 weeks, 24 targets in the last 3 weeks, 30 targets over the last 4 weeks. I mean, what we're seeing is it's kind of insane. 7.5 targets per game for Leonard Fournette over the last 4 weeks. And I know this is just half PPR, but still get pretty excited about that. So we can go with a wide receiver, tight end, running back. We can go a lot of different ways with this pick here.
Yeah, I wouldn't go tight end. I'd go. I think Pittman's fun. Or you can do the Drake London run back, or you could do Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, because none of these.
I would say those top 2 receivers. You get one of those, like that's you're getting some nice receivers.
Yeah, I'm taking one of these guys, and then with the last pick, we'll just go with best available. So yeah, Pittman. I mean, who? I made the choice on Chubb Fournette. Who do you like between Pittman and Amon-Ra?
Yeah, I don't know. Pittman's fine. Because I think we already did a St. Brown team as well. So it's just kind of being a little different.
So,
And
I
then
mean,
that leaves you open to Hawkinson if you wanted to go that way too.
True. Good point. Tennessee.
I'm probably doing Kittle, just hoping for a high scoring game there.
Yeah. Not going to be able to correlate anything too tightly, but here, even Gerald Everett. I mean, Darren Waller. We've already got
But you already have
Devontae Adams.
Adams.
And what do they say? What's the most recent? Won't return on Monday. Yeah, we don't have a lot of word there, but I
Like
mean, Kittle
Kittle had a
coming off
good,
8
nice
targets.
breakout game. Yeah.
I mean, look at that. We don't have a weak spot on this roster. Joe
Well, and
Burrow
that's
and
because
Jamar Chase stacked up. Leonard Fournette at running back. Devontae Adams and Pittman as our wide receiver 2 and 3. And George Kittle. I mean, not the most stacked and correlated team, but that's a lot of good players on a single team.
yeah, I think you still have the Burrow and Chase, like that could go off, and then you're set up everywhere else. I like that build. I
I like
wish we
that
would
one
have
a lot.
Pitts would have been nicer. I don't know why that guy would take him in the 4th round, but
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I definitely have him ahead of Kittle this week, but I'm more than happy getting Kittle in the very final round.
oh,
You want to
that's
crank
a
out one
Hail
more of these?
Mary. You just did the
Oh,
Hail Mary.
oh, oh, oh.
$50.
Well,
Big
let's see if
spender
this
here.
one
Let's
if it fills up, we'll do it. But let's go ahead. This one's not going to fill for a while. I'll leave this one. We'll do another one of those a different day. Let's do one more battle royale. And the Hail Mary, that's the same exact. Everything's exactly the same as these battle royales, right? Just a
I
little bit
think
more
it's
expensive to get
12.
into.
There's 12 people in those ones.
12. All right, but it's the same. I mean, quarterback, running back, 2
Right.
wide receivers, tight end, and a flex.
Mm-hmm.
Got Chad Parsons in here. Kittle simmering for a big game. I agree. We finally saw it last week. And, the big thing has been the offensive line struggles that they've been relying on him to block a little bit more. He had his highest percentage of routes run last week, ran a route on over 90% of his snaps. So hopefully we can see him pop again because 8 targets is nice for a tight end. And then 8 targets to an athletic freak of nature like George Kittle is really nice. But this is the first time we are finally, it took us 5, but we finally got one. We are picking from the back of the draft here. So, ideally, just to kind of shake things up a little bit, I really want a Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler team. I think that would be a lot of fun to pick at the 1-2 turn. What do you think, James? Is that a little
Uh,
crazy?
2 running backs is fun. I like it. I think we should try for it this one.
All right, that's what we're gonna queue up in
I mean, even
an
even
ideal
Derrick
world. We get
Henry.
both of these guys. Oh no! See, yeah, that's what I do. I struggle with Derrick
Derrick
Henry because I
Henry
feel
with
like
the
Nick Chubb is the same player, and you can get
I know,
him rounds
but
later.
Henry with the Pittman run back, that's good. That would be fun.
There you go. All right.
Like I like Chubb if you could get I like Mark Andrews. Like that's really fun. Are we not even talking about McCaffrey, right? Like that's not really a thing.
It is kind of weird. I noticed that earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. McCaffrey getting drafted as RB6 off the board. Coming off, it hasn't been a huge game, but he's still getting it done. I mean, even with PJ Walker, he was still putting points up. And I know that he has historically struggled against Tampa Bay, but pushing him down to RB6 feels like it might be a little bit of an overcorrection, right, James? No? Is that where he does belong? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Every week it's so different with rankings. Like even I see Josh Jacobs there. It's like Jacobs could be the top running back this week, and I mean nobody wants to click on his name, and he's the 5th. And like, even at 5, you're just like, is Jacobs too high here?
Yep.
It's like even like I'd rather almost take Fournette and Mixon over him, but I think it could be a good Jacobs week.
Yeah, I was just looking
There
this
you got
morning.
you got your wish.
We got it. We got it. I was just looking this morning too. We talk about, is it an overcorrection that he gets pushed down to running back 6? I was looking at week 6 finishes this morning, and the difference between running back 3 and running back 7 was zero point 0.2 points. We're looking at Austin
Wow.
Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Kenyon Drake, Leonard Fournette, Brees Hall, all finished between 19.1 and 19.3 points in half PPR. So, we sit here and we split so many hairs about like where this guy should be and where this guy should be. When at the end of the day, the difference between RB3 and RB7 last week was a 2-yard rush.
Right. And the difference between last week on this tournament was some guy took Deion Jackson over Brees Hall.
Exactly.
And he won a lot more money than the second place guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's really how you set yourself apart. And that's why I was scrolling way, way down. Like Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is probably getting drafted in less than one of these, but we saw Ron Rivera just with a ridiculous commitment to force feeding the ball to Brian Robinson last week. So here he is. You can get him in the final round of your draft, probably not getting drafted in almost any of these. And what happens if he comes out and gets 25 touches and stumbles into the end zone a few times? Then all of a sudden, Brian Robinson was the guy that you needed in this week's slate. So
Mhm.
crazy things happen. And sometimes that's why it's worth it to take those shots deep. But we are set at running back. That feels good. That's a fun duo right there. That is my running back 1 and running back 2 for this week. With the next pick, we can go anywhere except running back. And we've got the back to back. I mean, we can go with we've already got a Burrow and Chase stack here. We can go with a Burrow and Higgins stack if we were feeling a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I kind of still like that Lawrence Christian Kirk. So
There you go. We haven't done that one yet. We will save that. We will do that in the final round this week.
no,
So
you can do. I like the Burrow Higgins is probably better. Or you can
let's see if we get them both.
Herbert and Mike Williams too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
but
one do you prefer?
You already have Eckler, so no, probably not on that one.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, let's hope we get this Burrow Higgins one. Man, Higgins just back to back weeks where he just has not looked like himself. I hate to use the term injury prone, but man, this is year 3 of T. Higgins, and we just see this guy consistently getting knocked out for a quarter here and then missing practice the next week and then game time decisions. I mean, is
Well,
it
you don't have to go that way then. You can
no,
go.
I do. I love T. Higgins,
Okay.
and when he booms, he booms. So that's what I want there. I'm just
Um,
playing devil's advocate and just sparking some conversation here. I mean, are we getting concerned that T. Higgins might be injury prone?
I hope not. He won me
Maybe.
a lot of money in the playoff best ball last year. That's one of my favorites. So
So we're gonna go with one more wide receiver and one more tight end to close us out. This one, we hopefully we can finally get Pitts in the final round here. You know, we missed Pitts with the Burrow and Chase stack. Maybe we can get Pitts with the Burrow and Higgins stack, and then we're gonna go with one more receiver. And there's still a lot of good wide receivers here: Mike Williams, Mike Pittman, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, Amari Cooper. I don't know if we want a naked Christian Kirk without your boy Trevor Lawrence, but we can throw Christian Kirk as there in there as well, and then Kyle Pitts. He's the main target that we want. We're going to be picking back to back, so I have a feeling we're going to be able to get Pitts here. Looking at every single person except, well, we got 2 people ahead of us that don't have tight ends left with TJ Hawkinson and David Njoku on the board. So we'll see how that works out. Probably going to take Mike Williams out of here because we already have Eckler and we don't have Herbert.
I like DK or Christian Kirk just on the run backs with the running backs that we have
That's exactly
already.
where my head was at. We'll put these guys down below just because, man, after that, Sutton. I mean, there's other places we could go. I mean, we could even talk. We even talked about if we somehow get sniped on Kyle Pitts again, we will go with Drake London this time around, and then we'll just take best tight end available, which is going to be Hawkinson or Njoku.
Oh, there goes Metcalf.
Yeah, Christian Kirk and Kyle Pitts would be the ideal one here if we can get these 2. And then if not, we'll put Drake London right up
You
there.
could also go Amari Cooper and Njoku. I mean, that's a. Oh no, yeah, no, that would
Up
be too
against
much.
Baltimore, we could. I have
No,
Pitts.
that would be too much.
Yeah, I've got Pitts well ahead of Njoku this week. I mean, we finally saw it. Like, it's just the only thing holding them back right now is that it's very similar to the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears, you know, they're the ones getting all the press for it because they are historically low in passing volume. But Atlanta is right behind them. If the Bears weren't doing what the Bears are doing this year, there'd be a lot of talk about how Atlanta is running such an anemic offense. And that's really the only thing that's holding them back right now is that they're attempting 20-25 passes every single game.
Well, no, I like this lineup. This one was a fun one. I think I like our stacked wide receiver one a little bit better, maybe. But
Yeah, I think these last 2, and that's what we do is you get a feel for these. You know, the first one we were kind of figuring out ADP, seeing who was going where, trying to find those deep players, and then it seems like we got kind of stronger with every single one of these drafts, and that's kind of been a theme with this show. The more of these we do, the better and more confident we feel about them. I mean, Eckler and Barkley is a heck of a start there, and then we got Burrow stacked up with Chase. We got the yeah, sorry, with Saquon and Kirk, we got the correlation there, and then we got Pitts to go along with that. Higgins and Burrow stack. So this one was a ton of fun. I think these last two that we drafted are both very, very solid teams. I'll probably be doing quite a few of these before kickoff again this week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was coming in blind this week, but I think I'm ready to go on some drafts now. So just drafting with you here, and it's
Scratch
nice
that
to have.
itch.
It's nice to have like two thoughts too. So I'm thinking some, you're thinking some, kind of meet in the middle. So it kind of helps my train of thought as well. So learn a lot from drafting with you each week, all off season as well. So that's the
Yeah.
best part about these.
Yeah, this was a fun week for me. You know, anyone that watched the show knows that a few of the guys that I had really pegged pretty high this offseason have not been living up to the bill so far. But seeing Allen Robinson finally stumble into the touchdown and have himself a decent game, Alan Lazard with his game of the season, I was feeling pretty good. And every time those guys score and you see those winnings going up a little bit on Underdog, feel pretty good about it, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's what we like. We want to see those numbers go up. So the bye weeks are going to be hit us hard for best ball here. So hopefully people survived week 6. Week 7 is going to hit hard. But yeah,
Especially for you and I, who I think my biggest theme in pretty much every best ball draft this summer was try to walk away with as many Philadelphia Eagles players as I possibly can. And if I didn't get the Eagles players, I was going for Bills players. And I mean, yeah, this is going to be a
um,
tough week to get through. Got a lot of Justin Jefferson as well, but we just keep plugging away. James, anything you'd like to say before we sign off today?
no, I think yeah, if you're on underdog, just try a few of these like we did here. Yeah, don't get flustered. Don't be afraid to kind of jump ahead with different stacks and game stacks that you like. Be a little different. Don't be afraid to go 2 running backs, or stack the receivers like we did. Yeah, I don't think you really have to force anything. So just kind of have fun with them. Let them kind of fall to you too. If you miss on Kyle Pitts, do another draft and you'll probably grab them.
Exactly. Happy to have at least one Kyle Pitts out of the 5 teams that we drafted today. Just want to remind everyone that if you have not already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/footballguys. Additionally, if you haven't already signed up for Underdog, use promo code footballguys and you get a 100% deposit match on your initial deposit up to $100. You can find a link for that right below in the description here on YouTube. James, we're going to be off next week, but we'll be back in a couple weeks and we will just continue doing these battle royale slates. If you want to check out last week's episode, Best Ball Resurrection is now closed, but we did a Best Ball Resurrection draft that was a ton of fun as well. We've been doing these battle royales and having fun with these, and these are probably what we'll be doing for the remainder of the season. So tune in, not next week, but the following week, usually every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for tuning in. You can find James on Twitter at James Brimacombe. You can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge. And you can find Football Guys on Twitter at Football Guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.